It is our monthly check-in with the Mayor of Oakville, Rob Burton. And Mayor, since our last chat, you have now had your State of the Town address. You teased it last time, but for those who weren't there and didn't get to see it, get some key points or highlights from the State of Town address.
Well, I've got, I think, a neat little thing for you. If anybody would like to read it, they can go to oakville.ca/state of the town with no spaces between the words. Oakville.ca/state of the town. And there you can see everything I said. And I would call your attention to there's an issue in town, which is any day now, the province is going to roll out its plan for the 4 applications that are under appeal at the Ontario Land Tribunal across from the GO station. And in my speech, I explained why I believe that process that the province is about to unveil is a better bet for us than what happens at the Ontario Land Tribunal. And there's far more public participation in the province's new procedure that they're trying out here, the transit-oriented community process. Far more public input allowed there than there is at the Ontario Land Tribunal. So, and my recollection and view of the Ontario Land Tribunal is, since it doesn't listen very well to residents, we got nothing to lose to try this. And the other thing that's in the State of the Town is my optimistic promise that our tax increase would be just under 4%. And that was before I learned that the police board has increased the police budget by almost 14%. And that means that instead of coming in around 4%, we're going to come in around 5% total. And what you're going to get for that is a big increase in policing, and that's prompted primarily by our concern about auto theft and violent home break-ins, trying to get the keys, since the cars are harder to steal now, thanks to what the industry has done to make them harder to steal. And the other piece of that is a couple of years ago, when inflation was 8.1%, we very carefully brought in a budget tax increase, a total tax increase of only 1.5%, figuring that under the stress and the strain of 8.1 inflation, people would appreciate a little bit of a relief on the property tax side. But we did that knowing that we would have to feather that lost revenue in over the succeeding years. And that's why, although inflation is now down below 2%, no matter what, we're going to be above inflation. But when you average the trend of inflation and the trend of tax increases, we're still good. And I hope this final point, I hope it makes it easier to go down. We will still be the lowest of all of our neighbors. So imagine what the others are gonna have.
Well, I don't think people are going to be complaining about any additional dollars going towards public safety. That is a huge concern right now, and we report on it here in Halton News every week that there's another violent break-in for an auto theft. So that one, I'll give the police board their due on that. So, okay, so we've given you a reprieve here. You're still good with the taxes. Now, I want to move along to another topic because normally we just speak about Oakville with you. However, your name was popping up in Ontario-wide news. Last week, the Premier challenged Ontario mayors to write a letter and tell him to use the notwithstanding clause to clear homeless encampments. Now, the Premier said Ontario Big City Mayors, but Ontario Big City Mayors as in the organization did not endorse this. There were, however, some mayors that signed this. You were one of those mayors. I'm curious why your signature went on this document.
Okay, it's this simple. The big city mayors, we wrestled with this issue several weeks ago, and we wrote a letter asking the Premier to consider 6 things that would, I know these are only 5, but 6 things that we wanted the province to look at doing to help us get the care and support that the people in encampments need. And that would, assuming success and agreement, that would get them out of our parks and our cemeteries and turn them back to our residents so that our kids can play on the playgrounds and our families can visit their loved ones' markers in our cemeteries. I mentioned the cemetery because we've had encampments, small as they are, across Oakville, including one that I highlighted in my State of the Town speech, where families who went to the cemetery to visit their loved ones' markers were chased away by campers who, is like the ultimate weirdest form of get off my grass. You can't be here. This is our camp. And, but it's not really the way we think of those cemeteries. I want to point out, we have the ability to shelter these people, and we sent our social workers who are very skilled as soon as we found out about this, and they do not go there with a "you gotta leave" message. They go there with a "what brought you here? What do you need? How can we help you? We've got to get you into better care." So back up now to the 6 points that we asked for several weeks ago. They're focused on the very tricky problem of some people in encampments refuse care, and they refuse to leave even where shelter is available. And this is a problem, especially because there are all kinds of people in encampments, and to think of them as one kind of holistic community is fooling yourself. There's violent drug addicts and severely disabled, mental health disabled people, and they're a danger to themselves and others. Sometimes you're talking about people who are so violent in the shelter environment that they're a danger to the staff and the other residents of the shelter, and they aren't allowed to stay. So we need these other 6 powers. There's an article in the Globe and Mail this week from a psychiatrist and another expert saying we're right, by the way, that just leaving people in encampments is no way to treat them. So the premier took exception about a week ago from us saying you should do these things, which folks like the Canadian Civil Liberties Association have denounced as requiring the use of the notwithstanding clause, and in their submission, the notwithstanding clause, even though it's in the Constitution, should never be used. And what the premier said was the mayors are trying to have it both ways. They're asking for these things that might require the use of the clause, and they're being coy about whether or not they would support the use of the clause. And so we're up to 15 mayors now, representing almost, the cities of these mayors, the population adds up to about 3 million now. So it's these are pretty major cities. And so I think it's growing, the mayoral support for this view. And so what our letter said was, we renew our request for these 6 things, and we answer your challenge by saying, yeah, if you find you have to use the notwithstanding clause, then we're okay with that. And I signed it because it doesn't seem ethically consistent to say to somebody, you should do something that might require the use of this notwithstanding clause, and then be silent about whether you would support or oppose its use. So to be consistent, a rising number of us have signed on to this letter. And we're not trying to make this out to be, this is not really, we don't want it to be seen as the Ontario Big City Mayors Caucus anymore. These are mayors of cities who are dealing with encampments and believe that it's too hard to get people who need care and support into the care and support that they need.
Now, you are the only mayor in Halton that has signed this. The other 2 that would have would be, of course, Gord Krantz and Marianne Mead Ward, who also is the chair of the Ontario Big City Mayors. With that in mind, do you think there would be rising tension because of your signature being there and then opting not to sign?
Well, I'm not sure. You might want to check Mayor Krantz. Over the weekend, I had some indications that he might be interested to sign it. I know that the chair of Big City Mayors, my colleague in Burlington, who I support, um, she doesn't agree. I think I should let her speak for herself, but I'm aware that she doesn't agree with this approach. And and we all, everybody's different. Everybody has a different view of it. I know that the mayor of Hamilton doesn't agree with this approach. And I know that some of the councilors on the Hamilton City Council are thinking about moving a motion saying that they support the use of the notwithstanding clause. So, people will disagree about everything. There isn't universal support for anything. If I say, let's go for ice cream, I know not everybody's going to say, yeah, let's get some ice cream.
Well, I mean, politics.
I don't mean to trivialize it, but I just, you cannot expect unanimity.
Politics is about disagreement. That's why we have various people running. I understand. I just did want to ask you about that simply because, we do cover the region here. And I will 100%. I'm speaking with Mayor Mead Ward tomorrow. I'm going to ask her the same question about it. So she'll have her opportunity then. But I do appreciate your time and answering my questions today. We will speak to you next month. Thank you so much, Mayor.
Great being with you, Jason.